The biggest takeaway from week 2 of the NFL for me were the injuries, and there were a lot of them. A lot of major injuries to some major teams and some major players as well. Andy Dalton from the Bears, he left with an injury. Carson Wentz, he now is dealing with 2 ankle sprains somehow, so he left the Colts game. He is doubtful to play next Sunday. We could see Eason get some playing time on Sunday. Tyrod Taylor for the Texans, he left in the second quarter with a hamstring injury, so they've got some problems there, obviously, in Houston, and their problem just got worse with Tyrod Taylor getting out. Baker Mayfield, he left the game for a little bit and ended up coming back for the Browns. But TJ Watt also left the game for the Steelers. Tua Tagovailoa for the Dolphins left the game with a rib injury. He was actually carted off. So there was questions about his future, and the overall question is not only what did I think of these injuries, but which injury will have the most impact. But as far as these injuries, it was worrying. It was worrying to see. If you check my timeline, if you check anyone's timeline, check Adam Schefter's timeline, busiest man in sports right now. The amount of updating that it required, like literally, you would get done sending one tweet out saying, "Oh, so and so is injured," and then right after that, another person would get injured, and it just kept happening and happening and happening. It was almost as if it was like out of a storybook or a script or something. Someone wrote it. It was remarkable how many injuries, and very surprising how many injuries were happening so close to each other. And a lot of people are talking since the Baltimore Ravens, of course, they had like 15 players on IR right now. There were a lot of injuries to them. There's injuries throughout the league, and injuries happen. But to see a lot of these major players get injured, and a lot of quarterbacks especially, those are the two things. One, on Sunday, we saw a lot of quarterbacks go down, leave games, and two, we saw, if you're not a quarterback, someone like TJ Watt go down and miss the rest of the game. Those are consequential injuries for those teams, and not only those teams, but for the NFL. We know the quarterback position is valued more so than any other position in football. TJ Watt, he's one of the faces of the NFL. He essentially is the face of the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. So to have him out, he just got paid, obviously, the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. So you have all of that going for you. It was just a very messy, very bad day for the NFL as far as injuries go. And as far as which injury will have the biggest impact on their team, it's interesting, because if you're going to ask me which injury is going to have the biggest impact, I would say Tyrod Taylor's injury for the Texans, is bigger than all of these, because the Texans don't have much. Tyrod Taylor was the one who was kind of making it all fit together, making it all work, making it all kind of go. But outside of that, there's not really much to hang your hat on if you're a Houston Texans fan. Like Davis Mills, he came in and he did a job, but was he the guy? Is he going to be a similar type of player like Tyrod Taylor? And as far as what he means to this team, probably not. So let's take him out of the equation because the Texans are so bad. If we're talking about which major team that has somewhat of a chance at least at the playoffs, I would say the biggest one would be for the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa he's in a very similar position to Tua. I just did a thing there, a pun. Anyway, but Tua Tagovailoa for me is probably one of the biggest injuries, or will have the biggest impact for his team, because we saw what Jacoby Brissett provided there when he got in. It wasn't much. They lost 35-0 after Tua went down with that injury. And as much as I know Tua gets a lot of flack, people want to say, oh, well, he doesn't read defenses. He didn't play well, blah, blah, blah. Tua Tagovailoa still is a young player. He's in his second year. He still hasn't started 16 games for his career. Give him time. But one thing you notice, that offense is different when he's on there, especially this year. That it seems to be clicking, at least somewhat. That team seems to have some sort of energy. They just don't when he's not on there. I think that's going to be the biggest impact on a playoff team. Overall, going in a flip direction, rather, Andy Dalton's injury could have the biggest impact overall on the team. And that is because it might give way for the Bears to finally start Justin Fields at quarterback. And it's in an unconventional way is going to help this team, I think, because I like Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is a very good quarterback. He can come in, steady the ship for a lot of teams. I like him, and he can do good things. That doesn't mean, though, that you should ignore the fact that you have the guy who is going to be the franchise for you on your bench right now in Justin Fields. That doesn't mean you ignore the fact that you have a guy who can overcome a lot of the problems that the Chicago Bears have in not only their offensive line, but their lack of really explosive talent outside of Allen Robinson. So I think if Andy Dalton, there's still questions about what exactly is going to happen with him. Is he going to play? If not, the plan right now is if Andy Dalton can play, they're going to go with him. If not, obviously they're going to go with Justin Fields since he's the backup. But if Andy Dalton can't play, and this gives way for Justin Fields, he's not letting go of the starting job. He is one of those guys who's going to come in and not let go of the starting job. He is a leader of men. He is a football player, an athlete, whatever you want to call him. A quarterback is what he is and what he's playing. The guy can read defenses. His ability to move outside of the pocket is going to make the Bears offense a little more versatile than it is. It's going to allow them to set up the run, be a lot more dangerous. He reminds me a little bit of a Russell Wilson type of player, kind of like I would say probably he's like a midpoint between Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray. He's not as fast, I think, as Kyler Murray. He doesn't really have the little bit of agility as Kyler Murray, but he can move, and he's got a cannon of an arm. And he's on the shorter side. That's obviously why I use those two as comparisons. But I think Justin Fields, if he gets the opportunity to start this season, and if it's next week against whoever they're playing, I forgot who they're playing, but if he gets the chance to start next week, you can rest assured that he is going to be the starter, barring injury, for the rest of the season. And the Bears could go on a run here because, like I said, that offensive line is bad, but that offensive line is going to get better and be forced and be in a better position as far as blocking and allowing them to actually set blocking schemes. They're going to get better once Justin Fields is in there because the defensive linemen are going to be wondering what Justin Fields is doing. If you're running RPOs with Justin Fields, it's going to be difficult for defensive linemen to figure that out. It's going to give the offensive linemen a little bit of an edge and a little bit of leeway as far as, if they make a mistake or two. So he can overcome a lot of the deficiencies that offense does have. And I think that it could have the biggest impact of all of these injuries in week 2 because there were a lot of them. Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.